And to begin, I think it's important to note that he does happen to be a Klutch sports client, that being the agency ran by LeBron's best friend Rich Paul, and more often than not, that does give a player an inside track to the LA Lakers. Whether it be a draft pick or an already established NBA player, that does tend to give them a pathway to the team. And for Hansen Yang, that could be either cracking their 15-man roster by being drafted, or potentially if you would go undrafted, making their team via two-way contract, which could be another pathway for him, and I definitely would not rule it out. So with that in mind here, could he be their draft pick? Could he end up on their team, and would he actually fit their team and what they need at center? Let's talk about it. So to begin, what the Lakers need at center, and kind of in the following order, would be number 1, an athletic vertical threat, something that Luka likes to play with, kind of what he needs around him offensively. A vertical threat to give them vertical floor spacing, somebody for him to pass alley-oops to, and kind of give him a last-ditch option on offense. That's what Luka really likes, and also what their team kind of needs at this point too. Then after that, I'd say number 2, a rim protector, something they really don't have at this point. After trading away Anthony Davis, they really didn't have one. Jackson Hayes kinda, but he's no longer under contract and might not be back with their team, so they definitely do need a rim protector. Then after that, kind of for the favorable options, and ideally what they could get, would be a switchable defender. JJ Redick definitely likes that. If you're going to be on the court, and especially during the fourth quarter, then you gotta be able to move your feet on defense. Then after that, if you're not a switchable defender, you can make up for it, and ideally could make up for it with 3-point shooting. Also something that Redick likes, with him liking to run 5-out offense, and ideally what they could have at center would be a floor spacing, switchable big man. But okay, great. Does Hansen Yang fit any of that? Kind of not, and we'll talk about the parts that he does fit and the parts that he does not fit. But to give you an NBA comparison and kind of frame of reference here, I'd compare him to former NBA center Brad Miller. Maybe a name you've heard of, maybe not, but he does happen to be a former 2-time All-Star, a very skilled big, a very good passing big, a guy that could both offer a little bit of rim protection and strong rebounding, passing, and occasional 3-point shooting. So kind of comparable to Hansen Yang, and we'll talk about why. And to begin, we'll talk about his strength, then go to a weakness, and go through 3 individual ones each. And beginning with his strength, I'd say that would be his passing ability. Like I referenced there with Brad Miller, Hansen Yang does happen to be a very good passing big man and has great vision for a big. That's something you can definitely point to with him. During his time in the CBA, the Chinese Basketball Association, Hansen Yang averaged 3.5 assists per game to roughly 3.3 turnovers per game. So a little bit of volatility there, but he did show off some good playmaking and passing ability. I think that'll translate to him being a very good DHO guy in the NBA. Maybe not a guy you run your offense through like a Nikola Jokic or Alperen Şengün, both of which he referenced and kind of compared himself to, or who he liked to watch in the NBA. But I'd maybe compare him more to a guy like Domantas Sabonis out of DHO plays. Not exactly the offense ran around him, but simply handing it off and then rolling to the basket. That's something that Hansen Yang can do. Again, a little bit of volatility here with the turnovers. Averaging over 3 per game is never good, and especially for a center. But overall, for the passing ability and the vision that he displayed on the court, both during his time in the CBA and during the draft combine, I'd say it's overall strength for him and something that not many big men have, especially in this year's NBA draft. But then moving toward a weakness, and for him this would have to be athletic ability. Probably his biggest one, and the thing that stands out the most to me would be his athletic ability, both in regard to vertical ability, side-to-side movement, even north-to-south sprint speed, and overall again athletic ability. Hansen Yang is not a great athlete, which might be a problem for a team like the Lakers. Although he can be a lob threat purely from his height and overall standing reach, he's not a great athlete. He can't really jump up in the air and grab bad passes and pull them down and still dunk them. That's not his game. Or then defensively, even a bigger problem, will he be able to move side to side and even potentially switch on defense? Probably not. I mean, during the draft combine, he ranked in the bottom 5 among big men in all 5 strength and agility categories. Those being lane agility time, clocking in at 11.79 seconds, shuttle run time, clocking in at 3.01 seconds, 3/4 sprint, clocking in at 3.38 seconds, and then for standing and max vertical leap, having a standing vertical of 28 inches, and then only a max vertical of 30 inches. I mean, I wouldn't say anything here is outright terrible, but then again, nothing really was that good, even above average in my opinion, which is definitely telling and definitely worrisome for an NBA level center, and especially even more so for their team and what they need in my opinion. So definitely a big weakness for Hansen Yang. But then moving on to strength number 2 for him, and I would say this definitely have to be his overall rebounding ability. He is a very big center, and whether you're talking about his height, length, or overall frame, definitely is a pretty big guy. During the draft combine, he measured in at 7'1" barefoot, which is pretty impressive. Or then for his standing reach, having a 9'3" standing reach, but for his wingspan a little bit disappointing here, having a 7'2" and 3/4 inch wingspan, only about a 1 3/4 inch differential here, and that's not too great. Not terrible, but not very good in my opinion. But he might be able to make up for it with his very big hands, having both a top 3 hand length and top 3 hand width at the draft combine, measuring in for a hand length of 10 inches flat, second at the draft combine, and then for a hand width of 11 1/4 inches, third among centers and third overall at the draft combine, only falling behind Vladislav Golden and Ryan Kalkbrenner. So between that, then adding in a 252-pound frame, he should be a pretty good rebounder at the NBA level. During his time in the CBA, did average 10.7 rebounds per game in roughly 33 minutes per game, so pretty good, albeit at a lesser competition level, not facing off against NBA level bigs or the physicality in the NBA. Definitely not the same, and it might be a bit different for him, especially early on. But overall, I do think that rebounding will be a strength for him. Again, he's simply a very big player, and much like Zach Edey during his rookie year, rebounding was one thing that you can kind of count on him for, and I think that'll be the same with Hansen Yang if he gets on the NBA court and actually gets playing time. But then moving on to weakness number 2, and for him, I would say this would be shooting ability and overall potential shooting ability down the line. Yes, he did show some 3-point shooting ability in the CBA and during the draft combine, overall shooting 29.1% during his time in the CBA. Not too good, but showing a little bit of shooting ability here and there from the 3-point line. Also knocking down a few mid-range shots and fadeaway shots in the post. But if you point to his free throw shooting, an often good indicator and good measurement of shooting potential in young big men, then I'm a little bit afraid for his long-term outlook. Only shot 64.7% from the free throw line in the CBA, which did come on roughly 440 free throw attempts, and that's a pretty good measurement and good benchmark for him. So I'm not too optimistic for his 3-point shooting outlook. Yes, he did knock down some of them at the CBA, knocking down 23 in total, again only at a 29.1% clip. Also knocked down some mid-range shots and some fadeaway shots in the post, but I'm overall not too optimistic about it. And combined with him not being a great athlete, also potentially not a good 3-point shooter or not a very reliable one, that's a little bit worrisome for his outlook. Gotta be able to do at least one in my opinion. If you're not a good lob threat or a great athlete in general, then you gotta be a floor spacing big man, which unfortunately he's really not at this point. And overall from a fit standpoint, I don't really love it for the Lakers. If he can get past some of his current weaknesses and develop either a 3-point shot or prove to be more athletic than what he showed during the draft combine or maybe what we didn't see in the CBA, then maybe he could be a decent fit, but not my favorite fit and not my favorite draft pick for the Lakers, either at 55 or if they would trade up. Again, plenty to like here about Hansen Yang, and I would love him for a 2-way contract, but I'm not sure I'd be willing to spend a draft pick on him and definitely not willing to trade up for him, given that the Lakers need more of a lob threat, a better rim protector, and a more athletic big in general that can either switch on defense or knock down 3-point shots and is a little bit more used to the NBA style of play. But with all of that being said, what do you guys think? How do you feel about Hansen Yang as a draft prospect? Do you think he'd be a good fit for the Lakers, or what team would he be a good fit on? And would you spend a draft pick on him if you were the Lakers? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But I think that'll pretty much do it for this one. And if you enjoyed the video, then I would greatly appreciate it if you dropped a like, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and hit that notification bell to never miss out when I upload a video. But as always, thank you for watching and have a great day or night.